Hi everyone. Today I'm going to do a demo and I'm just going to work on a small portion of this collage that I'm currently working on. And the reason I'm doing that is that a lot of people ask me, how long does it take for me to make these collages? And I usually give them an answer about like 2.5 weeks or so, and it really depends on the size. But in reality, it really depends on a number of things. How complex the subject is. For instance, if I do an apple and it's a small collage, that might take me like 2 days, not including putting all the finishes on it. If it's an animal, that could take 2 to 3 weeks because they're a lot more complex, and there's a lot more depths that I really have to think about as I'm working on it. Or if it's a large piece and there's a lot of detail going on, that's going to even take me longer, maybe up to a month. And after I put all the work into it, I also have to put several layers of finish on it, and that could take another week or two to dry. So on YouTube, I have a bunch of time-lapse videos, but what I want to show you today is in real time. So I'm just going to do one small portion, I think just maybe a flower, and add that to it. And you can see what it takes for me to rip it up and paste it on there. Okay, so I'm going to work on a daisy. So I need some white paper, which I have right here. I'm going to need something for the center, so I have some yellow paper over here, and it has some different shades of yellow, which I like. And then also I need something for a green stem. And I've been working with a couple different papers here, so I should have something that I want to work with. And this is a big part of it, just looking for the right piece of paper you want to work with. Depends how big this is going to be. It will take me a little time to figure out which one to use. Let's just go with this for the time being. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need to rip up some of the petals. Now I could cut this and that would look nice, although I like how things look. I think it gives it more. Oh, I got two. Didn't even think about doing that. That's a good idea. I have to keep that in mind in the future. So I'm going to cut them so that it's a little bit bigger on top and it comes to a point. I like hand ripping it because I think it gives it more of an organic look to it rather than cutting it, because I might as well just do that as a digital collage if it's going to be like so perfect. But there's times you'll see, as with the stem, I'm going to want to cut that out. So what I need to do right now is, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's add a few more. Maybe go up to 7. I like odd numbers, so we're going to try to do that for the petal. And this is a thicker paper. You have to watch with white because it comes in different colors, like a beige white, a bluish white. So I'm going to try to keep all the petals from the same piece of paper. And I don't mind that it has words on there, but I might also want some that are just plain white. So I'm going to take, and I'm ripping a bigger piece and making it smaller, so it's just easier for me to handle. Boy, I got 2 here, which is fine. And I know the edges are a little wonky, but I think originals, the artist put some energy into it, and when you kind of have things that are more, they don't have to be perfect. Nothing has to be perfect. It makes it much more interesting when you have little flaws to it. Okay, so some of these might be a little fat, and I will clean those up a little bit when we get to the collage. So I'm going to put this aside. Now, where's that yellow piece of paper? What you didn't see is me going through magazines, and I could spend hours doing that, trying to find the right colors and the right shades for what I need. And a lot of times, I'll do that just while I'm watching TV and with a cup of coffee, so you don't need to see that. What I want to do with the centerpiece is that I want to have a little bit of shadow to it. So I am specifically looking on here for something that has a little bit of brightness to it and a little bit of darkness to it. So that kind of gives you the illusion that there's a little bit of a shadow to it. So right here, this is kind of nice, this little piece right here. And I am going to cut this out. This is a really thick piece of paper, which is good and bad. So let me just I'm just eyeballing this. And I found that I've been making them a little too big, so I end up having to redo them, make them a little bit smaller. But you don't know until you start pacing it down and figuring out what you have to do. All right, so I got a little bit of lightness on here and a little bit of darkness. Now, as I was saying, this is good and bad because it's hard to cut out, first of all, without getting too much white on there from the thickness of the paper. And also when you paste it down, you have to be careful that it doesn't pop up. Compared to regular paper, it'll just lay flat. Now this isn't perfect, but I'm going to cut off these little goobers of paper that I have around the edges here. Just give it a little bit more sharper look to it. Okay, so that'll work for what I'm doing. And actually that looks kind of small. I might have to make it bigger. But for now, let's grab, okay, I kind of like this. You could see, well, I don't want to get into the lion here. So there's a lot of little decisions you have to make while you're working on this. Let's see, I know I have a piece of green paper around here someplace, and this is part of the problem. It takes a while to do this. I'm going to take this one because there's various shades of green in there, which I like. So it's not just a flat green. And for the stem, I'm going to use a ruler. Give me more of a straighter edge. So I'm going to cut that and just eyeballing everything here. And then we're going to cut another strip. So we have a nice thin piece of paper here. Okay, so there you go. We have that. So let me move the camera back to the collage now so you could see what I'm doing. Hopefully I don't have too much glare on here for you to see. I think where I'm going to put the flower is right about down here. And I'm going to have it kind of run off the edge because I don't want them all to end perfectly at the edge of the collage. And you can see I have all these little extra pieces just kind of hanging off. When I'm done, I'm going to flip this upside down and paste these all under, just in case you kind of see a little bit of the edge of the collage. So first thing to do, I have my trusty glue here. And I'm kind of working backwards from at least my setup right now, how this is usually closer to my table. But what I'm going to do, first put down a little bit of adhesive, and I'm just going to put down, I don't want things to line up perfectly because I want everything to be just a little bit off. So, so what I'm going to do is first put down the back petals because the yellow part is going to have to sit on top of that. And without having to cut it in, I'm trying to save myself a little work. That's a little too much glue there. All right, now see, this one's a little too fat. So I am going to just, with my fingers, try to get a little bit more of a sharper point. There we go. And because it's white on the other side, I'm even going to flip this over like it was bent over. You know, some a little imperfect. I kind of like that. Anything goes. No one's going to say, hey, that flower's not exactly the way it should be, right? So it's my world. I will make my flowers the way I like it. Okay, so I have 3 petals on there. Now, I'm going back and forth, this little pause here, I'm going back and forth to my table to grab all my pieces. Now I'm going to put on that middle piece, and I'm kind of keeping in mind where I think the sun is. And the sun is going to be up in this direction, shining down. So I try to get all my shadows on the same side. So this is kind of a flat shadow, but that's fine. We'll cover it up a little bit here. So now I'm going to take another petal. This one's a little too fat. And I'm just going to drop it on the floor, which I know is, you know, I have to clean up the floor after each one of these because I just make a mess. All right, oops, and now I'm starting to get really thin on that. Sometimes you got to redo a petal if it doesn't work out quite right. Okay, well, let's let this one run off because you won't see it's not really a nice sharp point down there. And I want to see some of that darkness from the yellow that we picked out there. And we'll just do that. This part here, I'll wait till it dries. You can see I have a lot of glue on my easel here, of all the glue that just kind of ran off it. And I don't want anything to stick to that, so I'm just going to wait till this dries, and then when I flip it over, I'll just paste that over. Let's take another petal here. Once again, a little too fat for where I want to put it. And we're just going to cover that up a little bit. And actually, you know, I probably don't even need the green piece because I have this one so far down. So I'm going to put that in right now. Let's just take a little bit. I'm going to rip that off. And maybe I could use that for another piece coming up here. So we'll just put that right now. It's kind of going off at an angle. I don't know if I need another piece, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I said, I like odd numbers, and right now it's an odd number, but I just want to put a little something extra. And this is just, you know, what you think is kind of right. Okay, I kind of like that. That'll work for now. And I'm leaving myself a little space. I always do that so I can sign my name, because otherwise it's so complicated. Not complicated, but so busy. You can't really see sometimes when I sign these things. So I think the next step I'm going to do for today, this is all I'm going to show you. But what I probably, to finish off this collage, what I want to do is add some yellow flowers, because I want your eye, what I'm going to do is have them go like this and then go off to the side there. So it's almost like a V, and so it kind of ties your eye into the finch here. And I did that on my other ones too. And then I think I might add a bee or two, and maybe I might add a little ladybug, just so there's a little pop of red somewhere in this collage, just to make your eye kind of look someplace else on there. And I think a couple of these little flowers need a little work. So that's what it takes to make just the one flower, and give you an idea of how long this takes to make.